Hello, welcome back again to the Trek Way. I'm Trev, and that's Gray. I think he's on that side.
Whatever.
He's somewhere around here. We're back again for some more Star Trek Prodigy reviews, trying to kind of smash it all in over the course of like a month, 6 weeks, and then do 2 episodes a week, just because I realise people might not want it spread out over 20 weeks, nearly half a year. That would be way, way, way too long. Although I wished, Gray, that they had done it that way, Netflix, but that's not their style, is it? So
at least done 10 and 10 or whatever. I really thought they were going to do 10 and 10, but they didn't.
That's what Paramount done.
Is my Prodigy forward or backward?
It's normal to me on my end, so you should be fine.
Perfect. You're the one who's recording, so that's okay.
Yeah, he's obsessed with that, to be fair. I'm always just going to keep the Defiant in there because it's the best starship that ever existed, so meh, whatever. Right, okay, so yeah, we've got 3 episodes in this review that we've just kind of smashed together. Then we're doing our 2-parter after, which will drop throughout in the middle of the week as well. So just before we kick off with season 2, episode 6, just quickly to get the paperwork out the way, please come along to our Discord if you want to talk anything Star Trek, gaming, or entertainment. It's basically just discord.gg/extreme gaming podcast. Also in the notes, you can get all those things above. We do, as well as the Trek Way, which is available on audio podcast platforms. You'll get Gray here as well on Gray's Green Room, which is entertainment based, and it's a wide range of topics within that. So we'll have an episode out at some point this month for that as well. And again, you'll get us on the Discord for that. He's on the YouTubes and the audio podcasting platforms. Okay. I'm really enjoying Prodigy at the moment, Gray. I think you are too. It's a real damn shame that it possibly might be stopped. Well, probably will be stopping after this season. However, if Netflix goes to Paramount and goes, we really love these figures, would you fancy making another season and we'll fund it? Do you think that'll happen?
I think now that they finally, sold Paramount. I mean, it's been going on for God knows how long.
Don't jinx it, man. They've agreed until it's signed.
True.
Come on.
But okay, so this time it seems like it's for real. But assuming that it all is for real and it happens, they're going to be going through everything and basically, getting the forensic CPAs out and everything like that to look over everything and accounting and blah, blah, blah. But, they're not stupid. They're going to see like what works and what doesn't work as plainly as we see it. They got to see it as good or better.
Yeah.
So Prodigy's done well. And as far as I understand it, we'll know more as some of the ratings come out. The problem is that the ratings that really count the most are the Nielsen ratings over here. You probably have something similar there. But the problem with streaming is that the Nielsens are always 3 to 4 weeks behind. So when they come out, you see what really went down. Now, I'm hearing that it's doing quite well on Netflix. So Netflix would be happy about that, of course.
Yeah.
And the people that own the franchise, which would be Paramount, whoever buys them, is going to be happy about that. So as far as on the books and money, because money talks, right? If you have a series that's making money and is popular like Prodigy, I would think that we'll see a 3rd season. Now, maybe the 3rd season may not be for a good year or even 2 from now because the dust has to settle with all this selling Paramount, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I really feel pretty good that we're going to see a 3rd season and maybe even more. Because it's just too good, man. It really is. I mean, the overall, with the exception of, again, we have to deal with the teenage part of the writing.
Yes.
But the majority of the writing is not just always geared to the teenager. They make a really good effort to go to everybody, every kind of age range. So they do an excellent job with that. The writing is far better than a lot of stuff that they put out on Trek, which is great, and the animation is just really good.
I love the animation.
I'm
actually
really excited about the animation.
It's kind of CGI, isn't it?
It's like a cross between normal animation and Unreal Engine 5, something like that.
Whereas Lord X is more standard animation as we know it.
Standard cartoon kind of, yeah. And for what that is, that works perfectly for them. But if you want some kind of realism without getting too cartoony, and yet it's not going to be completely live action, right? This is the next best thing. And I've been floored by the animation since the beginning. I mean, it really looks good.
It does.
And
look good.
I think other, well, you know, you've seen Kate Mulgrew come back, and what's his name that plays Chakotay? He's come. I mean, more and more of these
Robert
people can come
Beltran.
back. Right. And Picardo for the Doctor. More and more of these people can come back to do these things because their presence, their real age doesn't have to show in a live action. So now they have latitude to do all kinds of things. So that could really open things up. I mean,
I don't
know if we're ever going to see it, which is a shame, but you could extrapolate and say like anybody on the TNG crew could easily do voiceover. So can you imagine if there was a show like this and covered like a Captain Worf episode or something?
Well, I'm just glad they done Janeway a little bit older and not super old, because that gives her the way Kate Mulgrew is just now age wise. That if she were to come back, she would be a proper full blown admiral in her twilight, like Picard is, and actually be the proper captain that we all loved, or the admiral that we loved from yesteryear. So I'm looking forward to that. But we'll see. Fingers crossed. Let's not jump the gun anyway, Greg, because let's not spoil it for ourselves. It's something that may not very well happen. Season 2, episode 6 was titled Imposter Syndrome. And I was initially concerned about this. I thought it would be like a kind of filler episode. It kind of is a little bit, but it's not too bad. It does. It doesn't start very well for Dal, because it's one of these episodes, Gray, that starts with kind of what actually happens towards the end of the episode, but they stick it at the start to give you an idea of what happened 24 hours later, kind of thing. And he does start this episode getting chased by his friends, basically, and they look like they're about to slice him up. And then it pans back to the 24 hours earlier thing. Here's what kind of happened. There is a good plan as the crew are going to... I mean, listen, credit to the kids, because they're teenagers, so they're not kids. So they do have the smarts, and they've developed a lot as characters and people since the first season, or even before. They come up with some good plans, not just harebrained ideas, and they are actually going to borrow the Infinity. Borrow, not really. And they're going to use holographic copies of themselves as cover. You've got down here that you think that was a clever idea, and I kind of do as well, but initially when I heard the plan, like when I'm hearing holo copies, I'm thinking, they're going to be found out way too quickly. It's not going to be good enough. I had my concerns immediately. Did you not?
Yeah, I did. Initially I did, and I was trying to think of how they were going to pull it off. But they actually did a good job pulling it off. It made sense, as we're going to talk about.
Yeah. It did. So credit to the kids where credit's due. They're going to have to speed up essentially their plans to borrow Infinity, because they do learn that Starfleet has ordered the destruction of the Infinity, and it was a little bit much that, like, get rid of this ship. Saying that, I don't like the Infinity, man. I've never seen something so un-Starfleet in my whole life than that ship. I mean, it looks closer to a DeLorean than it does a Starfleet vessel. Do you like Infinity? Am I being a bit pernickety?
I like Infinity, but for what it is, it's not meant to be a normal starship. It's meant to be a starship that basically can handle traveling through time and whatnot. So it's not built like a typical science ship. It's not built for battle. It's only really meant to do one thing, more or less. So I can understand it not looking like as pretty as the other ships, because it only has that one function. So I had mentioned last week, they kind of compare it to a deep sea sub. I mean, those little deep sea subs that go underwater, they don't really look that great either.
That's true.
But they're totally functional, and I think that's kind of where they were going with it. So in that sense, it doesn't bother me, because I know what it is.
Yeah, true. I mean, yeah, well, it won't last indefinitely.
You get to see the Voyager A a lot, so that's cool.
Oh, beautiful looking ship. That, honest, I cannot wait till Fanhome make that. In fact, I need to get the original Voyager before I even get that one. And a Defiant. Yeah. I'd love an XL Defiant. I'd pay good money for that. Yeah, like, I have noted down here that Dal was a walking joke machine. I can't remember what joke he cracked at the time, but it was. It does some of them are funny, and then some of them are just like, okay, right, Dal, you need to stop now, man. Sorry. Do you remember the joke he cracked about the ship going bye-bye? I don't remember what it was, but
I should have been prepared for that. I don't remember. He does that a lot.
I guess it wasn't a funny one, hence why I didn't note it down. But I did note that he was a walking joke machine, which he really is. Now, this is the thing I touched on before about the kids' plans being rumbled. The Janeway and the Doctor almost rumbled their plans, their holo duplicate plans, as they find themselves on the Protostar holo bridge. Now, I kind of don't really get it, because the Doctor should be able to see through that right away. I mean, I know it was Rock that, so it was Jankum that programmed them. But Jankum does it in Jankum's kind of way. So while he can do it, it's Rock that's probably the smartest one of all of them. So she fine-tunes the programs to be more believable. Maybe she programmed it a bit too well, but to pull the wool over the most advanced hologram that exists, the Doctor, bit far-fetched, but okay. I'll let that one slide, I guess.
I think we're falling into the realm where how difficult do they want to make the show to be understood again? I mean, I hate to keep throwing back the teenager thing, but
hey, I'm going to keep nitpicking. That's what I do. Yeah, I nitpick.
No. We definitely should.
It's got to make sense.
No doubt. I mean, I still was kind of like watching to see what would happen. I was kind of like thinking like, oh, she's going to see through this maybe in a second, but she didn't. So I was kind of like, okay. Did you see Murph brings her a cup of coffee?
Yes, that was a good point. Actually, that's good. Brownie points.
Everything happened like really nonchalantly. He just brings the cup up to her, and she just takes it right. No problem. Thank you. Didn't say a word. Didn't miss a beat.
That replicated coffee won't taste as good. I'm telling you right now, man. No way. It's like heating coffee up in the microwave and it's cooled down. It'll never be the same.
Do that. I got it right here. See?
Trickway mug. Very nice. Very nice. Person that gave you that's a genius. I know. So yeah, Janeway and the Doc do not rumble their plans, despite almost doing so. The holo duplicates get away with it a little bit. They only have an hour. It's always an hour. It's always a bloody hour for the most part, time wise, until something hits the fan. Always.
Right. Why don't they say 63 minutes or something? Instead of the hour, just to be different.
We've got to round up, man. Even the universe, causality rounds things up and down, surely. They have an hour to find the Hollows, who went a little bit AWOL. I say AWOL. They're in the holodeck, and because they've been programmed to be too good, no one really knows who the real Hollows are between the real McCoy and the holograms of the real McCoy. So there's a little bit of a standoff there, and the Hollows kind of trap them inside and make a kind of break for it temporarily. I like the concept of programming them so well that they don't know they're holograms, because then they're more likely to pull the wool over the eyes of the crew, but not over the Doctor again. But again, just a nitpick. It's fine. I'll let them off with that one. So yeah, they then decide, as Grade notes here, they are going to hunt down their own holograms. I mean, what's the worst that can happen when they don't know they're holograms? Really? Dal finds himself, and I don't mean spiritually, like he finds these hollows. He doesn't go off and have a little prayer. He finds himself his duplicate, and he has a phaser standoff. I would love Gray now to tell the people why, in theory and practice, having a phaser standoff in a starship shouldn't technically ever happen.
Well, this has been like something I had to double check. I remember seeing this. I just don't remember which Star Trek movie it was. So
Massive nitpick.
Right, and Star Trek 6, when the movie came out, there was a Lieutenant Valorous, and they were in the galley of the Enterprise A.
The Vulcan.
Right. An alarm sounds off. She grabs a phaser from a wall compartment or whatever, and she's going to shoot the pot on the stove, I guess, to heat it up or whatever. Because
no. She hits the phaser first, and then the alarms go off. As she does it as an experiment for the same reason you're explaining why it can't happen on the Starship.
Right. Sorry. So basically, what the point is that they introduced in Star Trek 6 that nobody can just do willy-nilly with a hand phaser inside a ship, which, when you think about it, it makes total sense.
Yep.
The only problem is that they did it in Star Trek 6 and they never did it again. Now, from that point on, everybody was firing phasers inside the ship and nobody thought anything of it. But I'm glad you pointed it out, because in actuality, that makes a lot of sense. It should not be that way aboard the ship. Or there should be a way to override, like the captain can override it, or somebody, because a critter could get on the ship that they need a phaser for. But they don't say anything about it. So now it's just like accepted. Oh yeah, just shoot phasers anywhere on the ship.
Yeah,
it's like the Wild West. You just you shoot first, ask questions later.
Very good point. I know why they done that. It limits the storytelling. It does, of course, it does. Yeah. But it does make sense to have it in place. So it's a case of they're not backing down; they're doubling down, and that's frustrating. That there shouldn't be any, or they fire and then the alarms go off. That's fine.
Right. Exactly.
Fine, that's cool. That's what's supposed to happen. The only way you can stop the alarms going off is if a senior officer tells the computer to override the alarm. But that doesn't happen.
That makes total sense, and it wouldn't be that difficult. So what? The alarm goes off. You could still fire at the monster, whatever it is.
It doesn't stop you physically firing. It just, the smoke alarm goes off, but the phaser version of the smoke alarm, basically.
Right. You see him just going over to the alarm, blowing air, and they're like, "Stop doing that."
Getting the tea towel, the dish towel. Come on, go off. As Trevor burns his toast many a student night back in the day. So yeah, that was no alarm went off. Glad that Gray explained that one. We do see the odd, of course, bridge officer or senior officer on our travels in this episode. A natural counselor himself. You just see him walking past as he bumps into one or two of the crew, one or two of the kids, and you overhear him saying he's going to have some downtime in the holodeck, and you just hear him saying set hot tub to extra bubbles. I noted that down because I had a little chuckle at that. The guy's had a long day. We know what that's like. You need extra bubbles in your hot tub to make sure you're good. And later on, I didn't note this down. Later on, when they reset all the holodecks on the ship, he's in a bath at the time, so it just kind of disappears and he hits the ground.
That was funny.
I do like the counselor. He's a bit of an arsehole. Yes, but in a good way. Like I like the guy. He's pretty funny.
He also thinks a lot of himself too.
He does. He really does. But I like the character, so he's okay. There is a lot of running around the corridors of the ship, which first of all I haven't noted, but it almost feels like along the tops and the sides, and mainly the ceiling as well. It almost looks like it's plasma energy running all the way through that, like the same things, the same stuff that you get from the nacelles. It's probably just lights Gray, but it doesn't look like normal Starfleet Federation lighting in ships. Do you know what I mean? It's like very bright at the top and the sides. And there's hardly anyone walking about the corridors at all getting from A to B. Hardly a single soul, so that they conveniently don't notice the kids running up and down causing shenanigans. Is that a bit... Am I nitpicking too much to be like, where is it? Even if they're on duty, you've got to go from A to B.
No, I think you're right. I think it's they're taking poetic license, so they don't have to sit there and explain everything. The only excuse I could give for that, and it's a stretch, would be that they're all on duty. They could be on a deck that's not as highly populated.
A lower deck.
A lower deck, there you go. But because they're on duty, the deck is empty. I mean,
yeah,
you could stretch it. You could stretch it. But you're right. You're right.
I just notice things like this, you know. It doesn't bother me too much. The phaser thing bothers me, but not the corridor thing, whatever. So yeah, as I alluded to before, the kids they do have a plan to reset the holos so that the real kids can actually get to an infinity. I never noticed this, Gray. You talking about an old-fashioned fire extinguisher? What the...
Well, because when Gwen arrives in there, she has to defuse the situation of some of the holo fighting with the real crew. All of a sudden, you hear you actually hear the sound effect of an old style like CO2 or whatever fire extinguisher. Okay, but then when I saw what was in her hands, for the most part, it looked just like an old fire extinguisher, almost exactly the same. And she's firing this to create a smoke screen or whatever to break things up. And I know it's a little something, but I'm looking going like, what? Where did you get this thing from? Where they still hang these things on the wall like they do here? And this time, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's a nitpick, but I couldn't help it because I just started going, what? I mean, she just pulled it off the wall like we all do in real life. And I was like, okay, whatever.
It's at that point you have that Vulcan character from Nova Squadron that's come up a couple of times who very un-Vulcan-like Michelle. She actually distracts the Doctor about singing because he loves singing in holo novels and stuff. It's not really like her to do that. Like Vulcans usually would be the first person to tell on you because they're so to the letter of the law. I found that a bit weird, Gray, first of all, and second, we noticed where her name came from, and it's a nice little nod, isn't it?
Yeah, I never realized this. I should have picked up on it, but I didn't. But the way they spell her name is M-A-J, and then they use like an accent mark or whatever, E-L, like a lot of the Vulcan names are. And all of a sudden, I was just looking at other stuff with Star Trek, and I heard them mention that the character was named that after Majel Barrett Roddenberry, who was Roddenberry's wife and was the voice of the computer on many Star Trek series, and she was also guest stars, different characters, etc. And so that was a really nice tribute to her, and I didn't even realize that. And then one of the things I also confirmed was something that Trev was saying last week when he was going like about her being, maybe she's related to T'Pau, which of course goes back to Amok Time in the original series. And then I find out, yes, she is related to T'Pau from Vulcan in the original series. And I was going like,
T'Pau, not T'Pau, because T'Pau's from Enterprise, Star Trek Enterprise.
Well, whatever. But
no. You said sorry. You said the right thing. I didn't want the viewers or listeners to get confused.
So that was like, so whether you meant it or not doesn't matter. The fact is you were right either way. So I thought that was kind of interesting. One note though that you brought up, what I thought I can explain easier, when you were saying about Majel acting somewhat un-Vulcan-like, the other thing we have to remember is she's a teenage Vulcan. We've never seen a teenage Vulcan.
True. So they're not perfect. They're not fully proper a-hole level yet.
Exactly, and you even know by watching TOS and other series that the Vulcans, it's almost like a lifelong journey of logic. So obviously that she's not a trail, so to speak, but she's not there yet.
It's a lifelong mission to get to proper a-hole level. Not saying all Vulcans are like that, but they do seem like it very stuck up themselves, don't they? When I look at her name, Majel, like M-A-J apostrophe E-L, I'm thinking, is she linked to the man that wears his underpants on the outside? Kal-El, Majel.
Oh,
let's cross them together, man. I've always been a fan of crossing franchises together, and San Diego Comic-Con is very, very soon, right? And there's going to be two people on the panel. It's an international friendship thing, like they're crossing the streams kind of thing. And it's going to be Russell T Davies, showrunner of Doctor Who. Don't get me started on that. And what's his face from Star Trek, Alex Kurtzman. So those two are going to be on the same panel. But I would love to see Star Trek and Doctor Who cross. It happened in the comics once. I've alluded to this way back. It happened in the once in Star Trek The Next Generation. The Doctor, I think it was it Matt Smith? His TARDIS lands on Enterprise D's bridge. And I'm just like, why Q's in there? Q's the most batshit crazy character I think I've ever seen. So the Doctor can be bonkers, but to see like the two universes cross and it could be a way of doing it, oh, please give me it. Please, I'll die happy. Don't need anything else.
and then we'll get Tom Baker to come back too.
Oh, he's really old, man. He's my favorite Doctor. Tom Baker is my favorite Doctor. He's really old now.
It could be an animated show.
Straight. That's it. Yeah. But quickly, he's very old. So yeah, Majel, love her name, love the nod to who she is. The best computer voice that ever existed was Majel Roddenberry's, hands down. She does special guest appearances, like Gray mentioned. I loved her as Deanna Troy's mother. Oh my god.
Laquana.
That's it. And she has the hots for Will Riker. It's always like the battle. Who's going to get Will? Is it going to be the daughter or the mother?
Deep Space Nine too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. She does have the hots for a lot of men. I'll give it. Is she an actor actually? Was she an actor by default, or she just done well in these roles?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, remember she was the original number 1 in the Cage.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That was her. Yep. She's been around a little bit.
So, yeah, a bit of a sidetrack there, but it's interesting, and that's what we do in this show. Michelle was, she's a good character, very good points there. The kids kind of, after resetting the holograms, they do get to the shuttle bay, but it's a little bit late because the Infinity is launched without them. However, like, they do some kind of emergency beam out thing, which I think they should do this more in Star Trek when they think something's got away from them. Remember, I hate to bring this up and I apologize, the Kelvin verse, where Scotty is the first guy to do long distance beaming, and it's actually our Spock that reminds him, that gives him the formula, but he's like, basically, you invented this, so I'm not really breaking anything, to beam long distances. You've never seen that in Star Trek outside that scene, because he literally beams like, I don't know how many solar systems across, which has never happened before.
I need to go check into that, because I went back to see it again, and I wasn't getting the opinion that it was a beam over. I was almost getting the opinion that they were already there, but they kind of faked you out, as you didn't know which one was the hollow.
Oh, you talking about in the? I thought you were talking about the Kelvin universe with Scotty. I was like, huh?
No.
Right.
In Prodigy. So there's a point where I thought, and maybe I'm wrong, but I thought they faked you out, and they actually said, oh, so the people we were following were really the holograms.
I was confused as well. Yeah.
Right. The originals were already on the ship, basically, and then they, but either way, even if it was a transport that was a little longer, it really wasn't that long. I mean, the ship.
No, it wasn't too far. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. That's feasible either way.
So yeah, they are on Infinity. They get a lot closer. The plan is when it gets closer to the blue giant, it's out of Voyager's sensor range, and then they can cloak the ship and then just take it away. And that's kind of what they do. So that's kind of cool. The holograms have rebooted by this stage, but their voices have swapped around a little bit. Zero's voice is now in Dal, and Dal now sounds all proper in English, which is hilarious. Whoopsie. So yeah, like a decent episode. What did you give it out of 10, Gray?
Oh, this episode? I went 7.5, just a little bit more than you.
Yeah, I'm 7 out of 10 as well. It was decent. 7 out of 10 is nothing to be ashamed of. It's just, it's better than the next episode, let's put it that way, which is probably going to be a really quick review, which we'll just bolt on to this. The episode after episode 7 is The Fast and the Curious, which is, I like some of the titles, like even if they're ripping off many other franchises. I cracked up at the start of this, and I'm being slightly rude, and I'm not even going to apologise from it. I've noted down here, to the word, from captain's log to an actual log, the kids are being well kids. What I mean by that is they're on Infinity, getting from A to B. It starts with Dal reading out captain's log, to which Gwen is... Gray's noted down here, keeps reminding him he's not a captain. You imagine that, Picard's trying to do a captain's log and there's someone like Wesley in the background. Captain, it's someone interrupting your private log, or be nothing worse. And he's trying to do this captain's log, being reminded he's not captain, to Jankum coming out of the toilet going, whoa, Jankum's just been in there. Jankum would not recommend anyone goes in there for a while, and everyone smells it. Hence the actual log.
Yes. More than one kind of log. Right?
Yeah, a couple of logs in the space of a few seconds. So yeah, that is pretty amusing. I mean, we can't forget that they are teenagers, young teenagers at the end of the day. So that's a kind of... I mean, Gray and I are immature in our 40s and 60s. So I mean, the kids are allowed to be a little bit funny.
Teenagers, but they're prodigies.
I thought you were going to say teenagers with attitude, but that's another franchise, isn't it? Now, of course, this is the McGubbin here. Normally, their trip is going to take 61 days. So there we go. There's something that isn't rounded up, Grace. 60, or was it 62 days? 61 or 2 days.
True, yeah.
There you go. Should have been 61.4 days. I'm just saying.
We're going to really nitpick now.
It would take them 61 days at what I assume is normal cruising warp speed for them. But they have a little shortcut to get them there in a fraction of the time through some transwarp conduits. And the only species I recall ever making their own proper full-blown, conduits is Borg. Ex-Borg in this case. What possibly could go wrong, Gray?
Nothing.
I don't recall ships being... I thought initially I don't recall ships being able to go in and out of the conduits willy-nilly. And then I remembered Endgame from Voyager at the very, very end. But am I right and wrong that you can't just go in and out them willy-nilly? You need something Borg-related on the ship to go into the conduits? Do you recall?
No, I don't. But I get I see where you're going. My only guess would be is since this is the 24th century,
they've advanced a bit.
Maybe they kind of figured that out.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, I do like the idea that this conduit, they have these conduits that they've left behind here and there. So that was kind of neat. They said, oh, there's one here. We can, shave some time off.
They should still be there.
I was kind of wondering how they're going to do that.
If you remember Voyager, they kept trying to steal, and I'm talking about the show, they kept trying to steal transwarp coils, I think they call them. And I'm thinking maybe there's more ways to go to transwarp than I thought. So a ship, I believe there's the conduit, so a ship just goes in and it takes them wherever they need to go, a bit like a highway or a motorway, yeah? But then you can fit the coils to a ship and then go into transwarp without all the stuff around it, if that makes sense, Gray. That's my understanding of it anyway. And I think that's how they managed to get into these conduits, which is brilliant because I was like, I love the Borg. I kind of don't want to see them again, though. So, whatever. Yeah. They've been done to death. The Holo kids back in Voyager are kind of playing up, as we alluded to before. The voices being a little bit mixed up. Janeway's and the Doctor, they're not really noticing that much, which is confusing considering they're really intelligent people, or characters, should I say. And was it Rock that talks about... I think it was the Rock that talks about the coffee that Janeway's holding is dirt water. It was Rock, actually. Yeah. Big mistake here. You do not knock the jungle juice that keeps Voyager flying. You're going to upset Janeway if you do that, to be honest with you. And what did she say, Grace? She walked away. She's like, I'll just take my dirt water away or something. She almost goes in a bad mood.
Yeah, but she also said it's an acquired taste.
It is acquired. It is. I used to love coffee. I used to drink coffee all the way through my 30s, and now it literally is like drinking dirt water to me. I'm done now with coffee.
I'm the other way around. I never really drank coffee until after I was 30, and then all of a sudden I got interested in it mainly because there was flavors. I like different flavors.
Yeah, having it black is an acquired taste.
No, God, don't even. Black is awful.
This is what I used to have in my 30s. If it's really, really good quality coffee, like very fresh and not too strong, it was doable, but now I can't, like you say. So yeah, you're knocking Janeway and her personal beverage taste is never a good idea. So great. This is what I call a filler episode. I don't know if you, I think you do agree, don't you, that it's a filler episode?
Yeah, pretty much.
And you can tell by the score that we give it at the end and how little notes we've got on it, because I wasn't really enjoying it that much. Not awful, but just not great. No. This one's centered around the Kazon, which is kind of cool, but the last I checked, they were on the border of the Alpha and Beta quadrant, not the Delta quadrant. How did the Kazon get there? Bear in mind, the Kazon are kind of a bit of a dumb species, safe to say.
Yeah, also we know how that happened. We won't say that right the second.
Yeah.
But I also think that they were pulled out of the conduit, so it's possible that as they were traveling.
Were they though, or is that an assumption?
No, the Kazon pulled them out of the conduit, traveled. In other words, they were trying to get to where they were going.
That's right, yeah, because it was probably in the Delta quadrant they were going.
That little robot thing, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Pulled him out. So being where he was, that's not totally unbelievable. But at first, when you see the Kazon, you're going like, "Wow, this guy seems pretty smart for a Kazon." But but there was a reason for it. We'll get to it.
They do explain that later on in the episode, as Gray says, but it doesn't tell you the destination or where they're going to. We just have to assume it's close to or in the Delta quadrant now, because that's where the Kazon were last seen, and they're not the smartest cookies. As a bit of a spoiler alert, as Jankum later on says in one of the reviews that we're going to do, that they are a nebula short of a galaxy. I like that. That's one of the better ones. He likes his puns, that guy, to be fair. But yeah, as Grace has alluded to, when they're in this Borg transport conduit, I couldn't figure out what this little vehicle was. I thought it was like some Borg tech, actually. I'll be honest, when I first saw it. It's some kind of drone, spider drone thing, attaches itself to one of the flux capacitors, because this thing looks like a DeLorean, and kind of pulls it out of the conduit a bit too easily, to be honest with you. And then they don't crash land. It literally takes them down, soft lands on the ship, and that's where they see the Kazon. And they've got a little device, the MAJ, as they call them, the Hygiene. He's got a little device on his head, and he can hear himself talking to himself every now and again, like looking around and talking to himself. A couple of cans short of a six-pack. This, because it's a filler episode, they kind of have to pay. I mean, it makes sense. Like, the Kazon are trying to make a buck or two, and to go through the conduits, they have to pay the Kazon some money, but they don't have any gold-pressed latinum because, well, it's Starfleet. So he said, "No, that's okay. We'll find another payment method." "Oh, wait, I want you to race some of my pilots." "Oh, okay." Why? As Gray notes down here, one word: weak. Yeah. It didn't make any sense. Like, listen, filler episodes are fine. And I know it's a teenage show, a kid's show, but we've seen some of the best episodes in Star Trek history are filler episodes going further back, are they not? Why you go from, okay, you can't afford payment, to, well, win a race against my pilots and that's payment enough? What? I know I'm nitpicking, but I think Gray feels kind of similar as well, because
it seemed more of like everything was kind of like more of a cartoon kind of writing than it was trying to be semi-serious.
Yeah, it
was just kind of like, oh yeah, this happens for this reason, and it was like, it was hard to accept because they were just kind of willy-nilly it, through. And even when they got into the race, it didn't seem right. Like all of a sudden they're competing against each other and they're acting like, like way too much like out of character, I guess would be the word.
Yeah,
a little bit. Now that didn't really jive either. So it's kind of like,
Yeah, the race was a bit weird as well because it only took one of the kids to win the race overall. One of the kids to win the race for them to all pay their fee and get out, kind of thing. But obviously, this is the bit that did make sense. Dal is very competitive, and he's supposed to be the pilot of all of them, even though he's a captain. I can never make up his mind. He can never make up his mind of what bloody rank he should be or what position he should be. Captain, pilot, whatever. Probably is the fastest one that's capable of doing this, but he's very competitive in this race, so he's kind of like, I'm going to win this. Even if I'm beating one of you guys, I don't really care. And Namaj keeps still talking to himself as this goes on, like a couple of nebulas short of a galaxy. And because he sees the kids are winning, he literally starts sabotaging the race course as he goes along to make it more interesting. And Gray notes down here that the writing in this kind of part is kind of juvenile compared to the previous and Fallen episodes. And that's why it's a filler episode, Gray. That's why it was weaker, because you're aiming at this show at kids or young teenagers, but you can still have good writing and storylines at the same time. That's not too much to ask, is it?
I mean, to me, it started reminding me of Wile E. Coyote and the Road.
Yes.
He was like, "Oh, I'll just throw these in their path, like the coyote would do."
You were almost expecting to hear a meep meep as someone flying past.
I was going like, "Well, this is just like not really cutting it. Just, it's just
well, really no.
Like I said, it could have been worse, but it was kind of like, meh.
It was, yeah. It was a bit meh. I mean, we don't have too many poor episodes in this season so far, to be honest. Yeah. What makes slightly more sense is the reason the Kazon were a little bit smarter than usual is it turns out there was an AI pulling the strings the whole time behind the scenes, and I got vibes of I can't remember their names from Lower Decks. The two evil robots that almost had a relationship together. Yeah. One of them was voiced by the guy that does Wei-Un from Deep Space Nine and many other characters. The Andorian from Star Trek Enterprise. I've forgotten his name. That's the vibe I got when I saw that.
One of them was Peanut.
Peanut Hamper, and I forgot another one.
I can't remember the other one.
Yeah, but it was...
Right, now that I think about it.
The voice of that guy, it's just I can't remember the actor's name, but he's brilliant. He's done many things in Star Trek. This AI, like this is where this is weak again for me. The AI's whole motive is it's not 100% clear. It wants to test organics to the limit, kind of to see what their breaking point is. For what purpose? Doesn't really make sense. Not really said. Yeah. It literally goes across the whole conduit trying to find organics to make them their best selves and test them to their limit. And it's Gray notes down.
It's probably one of those typical tropes where it was programmed to do this, something happened, and now it just focuses on one thing and one thing only, and so it goes too far.
To the extreme.
That's kind of the gist. Yeah. You've seen it a million times, so,
The race was a bit meh, as Gray notes down here. It was, but again, kudos again. The animation's brilliant. We've not really seen too many, if any, races really. So to actually see something this good in animation's nice as well, and it was a nice positive.
If it wasn't for the fact that it was Prodigy, the animation on the racing itself was really good.
Yeah.
But it didn't really fit the story. To me,
no, it didn't. That was one of the things that was wrong with this episode. Things didn't really fit together properly. Didn't make sense always, as well as the writing kind of being a little bit weak as well. Bear in mind, they should not. A filler episode should be the same quality as any other episode because animation is done in the time it takes. So it doesn't matter if there's pew-pew battles or there's talking for 24 minutes. It's going to cost them the same to make it regardless, I would imagine. So yeah, like the AI is on to them. It's captured all of them. It's got Zero, like, by all the limbs, can't move. And it looks like they're going to be turned into those like mindless automatons, like the head mage with a little device there, all be turned into the AI slave. Borgified, like it's like a poor man's Borg, to be fair. It's an insult to Borg, to be honest with you. But then, of course, Zero saves the day. Zero does what? And listen, I didn't know this. Zero is a he. Despite it clearly, this
whole time I couldn't figure out. Like I thought him. Her.
No, Zero is a he because the characters later on in another episode say he, despite Zero to our ears clearly sounding female. But I mean, what do I know? I know nothing. I'll leave it at that in case I offend anyone or get into trouble. So yeah, Zero, he saves the day by literally using the little boosters on his back, breaking the limbs free, and then just launching himself into the AI at like top speed. I thought it was game over for Zero. I must be honest. Were you, Gray? I thought game over. Yeah. There was an explosion and whatnot. But, you know, the Zero is okay, damaged, but, you know, okay, lost the limbs and all that, and the case is cracked. And I kind of note here as well, how can a cloud of gas be damaged? But, you know, I
don't think she really was damaged on their physical sense. He was damaged on their physical sense. It was more of the suit. But remember, he's a Medusan, so if the suit really did get destroyed totally, everybody would have to avert their eyes and stuff and not look because they could go mad. So there was a reason you didn't want the suit to get broken, but it got pretty messed up. That's for sure.
And speaking of Medusans, that's kind of centered around the next episode as well, which is kind of good. So yeah, the suit is partially destroyed, but Zero is for the most part okay. And then at the end, at this point, we know what happens later on, but at this point, at the end is just weird, man. It's like there's a scene on Voyager where they lose a bit of time, and you see these little tentacle things trying to take out Holo Gwen. And at the time, it's just like, what? Makes no sense. Obviously, we find out later on what that's about, but at the time, it was batshit crazy. Made no sense. Yeah. Gray, put the people out our misery, and we can jump on to the next episode review. What did you give this out of 10?
6. I couldn't really give it much better than that. It was what it was, but compared to things that we've already seen before, it was lacking, but it happens.
Yeah, safe to say that's the case for me as well. 6 out of 10, filler episode in more ways than one. Very average at best as well. Wasn't awful. It's just we've been used to kind of much higher standards so far, so that's why it felt that bit more disappointing. And then the last episode in this 3-part that we're doing at the moment was episode 8. I like some of the titles in this season so far. This one's titled "Is There in Beauty No Truth?", which, as we alluded to, is kind of Medusan-esque themed in this one. It just starts with more randomness with the kids. Jankum's doing a bit of a piss-poor job trying to fix up Zero. He is sometimes a genius, Gray, Jankum, and sometimes he's just a kid and useless. Just depends really with Jankum. He's attempting to fix up Zero with various bits and bobs and parts, but it's not really working. They don't have the parts for it on ship. And of course,
put another leg on him, and he's like,
yeah, it looked completely different. It wasn't even the same size, and he fell over. Yeah, a bit of a mess. And then, kind of unofficially, the pilot at this stage is Zero, because Zero can't move, so he's chilling up front. On the captain's chair, I think it's the captain's chair, because he can't move, and he hears what he thinks is Medusans reaching out to him, because they got this telepathic ability, and they can hear other telepaths from a long distance away. I do. Jankome's little vibes. When he hears from Zero about what Zero's actually heard about, there's these Medusans on this planet and we need to go and see them, and he makes a little quip and a joke about a bunch of nobodies. And it took me a little second to get that. But then Janko goes, "Oh, come on, you got that one, surely."
The other thing that Zero mentioned, though, it wasn't just Medusans; it was all non-corporeal entities,
non-corporeal beings.
Well, she mentioned 4 different races, which I didn't really go back and research. I don't know if they're all new or whether some of it's in canon. But obviously Medusans, which are in canon. But then I can't remember the other 3, but she said 3 other ones.
She did.
You know,
she did.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But that's cool, Gray, because we can't just have it being Medusans, because if you think about it, the wide variation of species in Star Trek, yes, the vast majority of them will be corporeal, but there will be a minority that are non-corporeal, and it's not just Medusans. And who's to say that all non-corporeals will drive you batshit crazy if you see them? Maybe it's just Medusans for all we know.
Right.
But to be fair, they are reaching out, offering to help, and then immediately you're thinking, "Oh, what's the catch? What's the trap?" You know, because that's what we think in Star Trek whenever this happens. There's nothing's free in even the Star Trek universe usually. And like, to be fair, while I don't have a massive bunch of notes in this episode, it was a lot better in the last episode. And this one is a good story. It really was. The locals, that when they land on the planet, they all have living bodies, which is really, really cool. Gray, you kind of like this. You were a big fan of this angle as well. You're talking about the protective wear as well, and how the title's linked to a TOS episode.
Yep. The thing we had mentioned before is I like when the show makes callbacks to other Star Trek shows, whatever. If it's done properly, it's always a nice thing, especially to me who originally saw the original series when it first aired. So the angle on this is when they got out of the ship that I liked it. They were wearing a protective eyewear, like a red visor. And immediately when I saw that, and I already knew that Zero was a Medusan, and Medusan's been in Star Trek canon. But when I saw that, I immediately knew the episode. And when I read that, and when I actually knew the name of this episode, I immediately knew what that was all about too. So in the original series, season 3, episode 5, they had a episode called "Is There in Truth No Beauty?", which introduced the Medusans for the first time in the Star Trek universe. This episode flips the 2 words around and goes, "Is there in beauty no truth?", which made sense to the show.
Yeah.
But this is where they got it from. So when they had the visors on, it's the exact same visor that Spock wore in that original episode when he had to look at the Medusan.
Yeah.
So he had the glasses to protect him and whatever. So I was so funny. And then they all just go, "Oh, you don't need those here," you know, because they have human bodies now. Or humanish bodies. That was really cool because they don't even say anything. They don't mention nothing. They just slip those goggles in, and that it was the exact same ones in that episode. And I like that. For people that don't know the original series, it still works for them. And the people that do know it, like me, are going like, "Oh, okay." So it was cool. I like that. I like when they do that.
I would look forward to watching episodes like that from TOS, and that's probably a good segue to what I touched on at the very start of this podcast review, that on our Discord, which covers sci-fi Star Trek related stuff as well from TTW, we have a sci-fi night every Tuesday. So I would include this in sci-fi as well, sci-fi comedy, from 7 to 8 o'clock BMT, GMT. We have Red Dwarf, 2 episodes, and if you like Star Trek, you probably know of that show, British comedy from late 80s, 90s onwards, which is genius. We watched a couple episodes of that, and then right after we alternate between Battlestar Galactica, the modern Battlestar Galactica, which is genius. And Gray's really enjoying it at the moment. I told him we would enjoy it. And then once that's finished, I think this episode this week, and then we'll probably go on and do an episode or 2 of TOS. either from the start to the end, or Gray will pick out the best episodes. Let's see what happens. I don't know. But if you come along to the Discord for that, we just literally, it's not a streaming party or anything. We don't press play at the same time. I literally just stream it in Discord and everyone watches. Much easier than trying to synchronize shit. So, a nice callback, Gray. I know who the magicians were, even if I don't recall that episode. This planet is kind of cool. They explain that these non-corporeal beings are in organic bodies because the planet's rings, I think it was, or certainly its environment, maintains their bodies, whereas I'm sure bodies could be made for them out with the planet, but wouldn't be able to be maintained. So they can't leave the planet because this environment maintains and keeps their... In fact, they get the energy from the planet as well, the environment, to actually channel it into making these organic bodies and then keeping them going and maintaining them, which was a really cool angle, to be fair. Yeah. And Zero is clearly very excited about this potential, to be honest, because he's a little bit busted up at this stage. Of course, not forgetting about the kind of the B to C plots there. Back in Voyager, no shit, Sherlock, the Hollow kids have eventually been found out. Took bloody long enough. Even following another Hollow in the dock. I mean, the dock, not, as I touched on before, not discovering who they were initially was surprising, but the Doctor, when he finds out they're fake, was really surprised, because programming the holograms to think they're not holograms, he alludes to, is something that's taken at one of his holo books. And he's like, they use my own holo books against me, man. What the hell? That was cool. I like that. Yeah. What do you make of Bob Picardo, Doctor, at the moment? I don't think he's as good in this as he was in Voyager, mate. I don't.
Yeah, I think he's good enough, and I do enjoy seeing him. But there are some scenes where he seems a little bit cardboard.
Yeah.
I think part of that is because
it's the writing.
He's used to doing a voiceover part. Like Kate Mulgrew has it down packed. She can go in and out of character. I mean, it's no problem. But listen, people don't understand it. There is a certain art to acting when you're not really live. You're acting into a microphone, reading a script. Now, old time radio used to do this all the time, of course, before.
But this is why you see actors like doing this with the hands and stuff, like as if they're acting against someone. Mm-hmm. You know.
In fact, a lot of the voice actors will tell you that they have to use their hands and their body language, otherwise they can't get into the part.
But why can't they act against someone, Grace? I interrupt you. Why? It's a voice recording, but why can't they have two booths where Kate Mulgrew's there, Bob Picardo's there, and they act against one another?
They actually do that sometimes. It's not that they don't ever do it, but there's times where
availability.
Sometimes you have to get a certain. It could be the way the script was written. It could be the order of when they filmed it.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that Picardo couldn't be in that day, but they needed to get this. So, hey, you got to give me the lines. And so it takes. If you're a true actor and you know how to, not everybody can do this, but you know how to do that and act like that, where you're just literally have a music stand in front of you with the script, and you're just moving your body language and going right into a microphone and trying to act like you're supposed to. It's not an easy thing to do. But when you learn it and you know what you're doing, it comes across just as real. So Picardo, I think, is just not quite. I mean, he gets better though, because kind of like as you see other episodes, it seems like he's starting to
mellow,
get used to it,
or
whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a little bit cardboard. It's not terrible, but he is a little cardboardy, I guess.
It's probably a fair shout, Gray. He's probably not used to it, and I'm not knocking him for that, to be fair. It's just not something he's probably done much of, if anything, before, because we've seen him as Wolsey in Stargate, and he's brilliant in that, and a slightly different kind of character. So I think it is literally just the voice acting part of it. I'd love to see him join Janeway if they come back for a live action, because then it'd be good old Doc back again. So yeah, he's a little bit cardboard. We still love him all the same. Very cool. We eventually catch up with the new looking Zero. Zero's looking $1,000,000. Very kind of sweet moment as he realizes all these new senses coming together, and he goes up and has a hug with all his pals, all the other kids as well. That was a nice moment. And was it Dal that actually says, well, a bit taller, like a hell of a lot taller, to be fair. Like, why are they so bloody big, man? Compensating, like, wow. Like, they're taller than full-blown humanoid adults, to be fair. So, very sweet moment, this, Gray. I like that. Probably one of the highlights of the episode for both of us, I think.
You also notice when you're talking about Picardo and not being used to that, the voices, the voice actors that play the parts for the kids are perfect, and the one that plays Zero is very good. I'll have to bring it up in time. We'll go through the cast one day, but she's very good, and she really sells her character, especially in this episode, because she had to sit there and imagine, wow, I got a body, I never had one, and she did a really good job. You really felt happy for her, and everything was cool.
I think that's how you have to do it. Like, not that we're experts or actors, we're not. You have to pretend you're that person, even more so when you are voicing it rather than real life acting, normal acting. So the kids do nail it, to be fair, but they've got quite a bit more practice on Bob, to be fair. Zero's getting used to all these new senses, trying food, like literally munching it all down. Little words of encouragement from Jankum about, you got to get stuck in there and eat it all. Trust me, Jankum knows about food and all that stuff. And then just because Zero is eating so much food that he lets out a big belch, a big burp, and then Jankum seemed impressed. He's like, yeah, that was... Jankum approves. That was good, yeah.
And he even said the aroma is great.
That's weird. That's awful. That's cracked up, man. That's a bit sick. Who's whiffing? I was going to say who's whiffing farts. Who's whiffing belches and burps, man? Come on, Jankum. No class, that boy. From laying logs to sniffing burps. Yeah, he's a strange character. I love him though. He's my favorite character. The Feast of the Senses, they call this, Gray, don't they? In more ways than one.
Yeah.
That's what that's the name of the feast, the festival they're having at the moment. There's a lot of dancing going on as well. Zero's a bit unsure on his feet, understandably, because he's not had feet for very long. Most of the kids don't want to dance, but Jankum's like kind of alluding like, yeah, Jankum will dance. Jankum's got some moves, and they go up and they start dancing. They can't dance, but it's hilarious to watch. This is why Jankum's my favourite character, because he just cracks me up. There is a bit of a catch, Gray. Of course there is. We always know there was going to be a bit of a catch, but it's not as sinister as we thought, to be fair. It's not as sinister as I thought it was going to be. They'd be like, we'll take one of the kids as payment because the organic matter that is used comes from actual organic beans, Something dark.
That's a good one. I'll have to do that in another episode.
Well, that's very dark Star Trek, isn't it? That's like Picard season 1 and 2 levels of dark right there. The catch here really, as I said, it's not as sinister as we first thought. Zero is asked to go through some kind of ritual, some kind of race involving what I've got down here is a big beastie. And no, not the Loch Ness Monster. This is a kind of flying bloody stingray is the best way I can describe
like ray or stingray.
Manta ray, stingray. They look similar, don't they? I might some kind of ray anyway. And they kind of run along. It's a bit batshit crazy and weird. All these kind of flowers on the grass, they kind of whip them up into the air, and this beast eats it. So it's not eating people or non-corporeal beings. It literally eats these things here, and they try not to get eaten. That's kind of the main plot here. Like, let the beast eat the flowers, but not the people. Right, okay, that's fine. I thought this was a bit weird, Gray, but you kind of liked it. It gave the writing some sense to you?
Well, I was trying to figure out originally, until they explained it, what's the purpose of the race. And then when they mentioned that because they're new to the senses, all the senses, In order for them to feel alive, they want to experience
Fear.
all the senses that they can, including fear.
Yeah.
And the only one that you're going to have fear with is running away from something that might eat you or whatever. So that was part of the reason for the race. And I thought, maybe I'm wrong, that they alluded to the fact that some people don't survive, because one of the people that were in the race, one of the other Medusans or whoever they were, said, if you survive, which means that some people don't survive, which is what the kids got scared about when they heard this. But I, as much as you being like we are normal humans, you would go like, well, that's pretty stupid. But it's not when you think about them, because they so much want to or love the senses that they had that they didn't have for millennia, that they want to experience everything. So they decided to come up with this race and be scared about the monster, possibly eating them.
Yeah.
So but it was a good reason. I like how they wrote in a reason that actually makes sense. Even if it sounds crazy to us, but it makes sense for them.
Yeah.
Even if it appears to be a little misguided, it made sense. So I said, yeah, good. It wasn't,
It was never going to eat them, not intentionally, because it eats eats flowers, So, but yeah, the point still stands that you are getting kind of chased, and you do feel a bit of fear, and that's what they understand to be fear as getting chased by this big beast, even if it's not chasing them. It does accidentally gobble up a couple of them, Zero and Dal. They do make their escape eventually, to be fair, but it does gobble them up. And it's kind of cool because they're way up high above the cloud cover, and the view they get of the whole planet from up there look pretty cool. And Zero's reaction as well, when he sees the kind of the planet from that high up, kind of it makes it worth it. It's pretty smart. But they're not gobbled up, of course. They are safe.
Although they did say that if you slide into the creature's stomach, that you, almost like that creature in Star Wars, you'll end up being digested over like many years or something.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
I'm like, oh, okay, that doesn't sound good.
They think once they all get back onto the ground that Zero will probably want to stay, because many others in the past have chose to stay because of how overwhelming this is. And of course, Zero briefly considers staying, but decides to go with his friends because, well, it's his friends, it's his family, that's what you do. And he realizes that, over time, the body that he's in will fail because it won't have the nourishment. But I'm grateful that hopefully we get through most of the season and that's not a problem until closer to the end. Is what I think will happen, which is fine. And then we get slight payment for the randomness at the end of the last episode about the weird tentacle things chasing after Gwen, because it was Voyager that actually, the officers on board Voyager actually find out that Gwen literally lost 8 minutes of her memory as they start delving into what's going on here. We're getting little snippets of this kind of bad big evil of the season, and I'm surprised it's taken as long as it has to actually come to fruition, Gray, because usually you get the big bad or clues to the big bad early on in the season, and we're by this stage a third of the way through, now we're starting to find out about the big bad. So I enjoyed the episode a lot. What did we give this one a 10, Gray?
I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think you did too. And I thought that the writing was very strong. I really liked the idea that there wasn't a lot of the teenage crutch writing in this one. Maybe a teeny bit, but most of it was not there. So I was like, oh, cool, because that made it more believable, I guess, for us.
Yeah.
So I really like that. And again, the acting was great. And the one thing I like about this series, and you and I have talked about this before, is I actually look forward to watching the next episode.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, well, I'll mention Discovery for a second, but other things that you don't really...
It's a bit more of a chore for you.
Yeah, it's not like yeah, exactly. That's a good way to explain it.
Yeah.
More of a chore as opposed to, I can't wait. With Prodigy, though, it's like, I can't wait. Now, yes, all 20 episodes have dropped, but the way we're doing it here is that we don't want to skip ahead. So we just watch what we're going to review on. So we still don't know what happens in the following episodes. Which
keeps it fresh a little bit for us.
Which keeps it fresh. Of course, it's a little rough sometimes when you go on YouTube and you see them start to talk. I got to go like this. No, I didn't see. No.
I saw nothing. I saw nothing.
I didn't want to know that. No. But that's okay.
As Gray just absolutely spoiled it for everyone by just saying that I gave it the same score. Cheers, Gray. Yeah, I did give it 8 out of 10 as well. Yeah, maybe 8.5 out of 10. In fact, just to mix you up and screw you over, there you go. 8.5 out of 10. I love the concept of Zero getting a body. No, block the editing. I love the concept of Zero getting a new body, which I didn't even think about, to be honest. Yeah, how they pulled it off made sense. It was really sweet, emotional. Officially a filler episode, but it fitted the whole theme of what the kids are all about and what Zero's about and whatnot. So yeah, and the moral implications of getting a body and not wanting to leave or wanting to leave the planet. So yeah, that'll do us for now. We've got the Devourer of All Things Part 1 and 2 for our next review as well. But we'll wrap up here for now for this one, and we'll see you again soon. Until the next time, Grace, say goodbye to the people for me, please.
Live long and prosper, everybody.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye.